Greetings, everyone, and welcome to my long overdue review of 77 Thrones, the Theological Codex. This is the very first sourcebook released for Within the Ring of Fire, and I've had it for quite a while now. I got a PDF copy within a couple of days of my first purchase of the PDF of Saga Book, because I was dying for more information on the world. And when I got that PDF, knew that I had basically fallen in love with this game. Spoiler alert, I think this is, and I don't give this away lightly, I think that this is the single best RPG source book that I have ever encountered. It is the most inspiring book I have ever had, the most useful as a flame tender, storyteller, game master, dungeon master, whatever you want to call it, and the most useful as a player. Hands down. So if you don't need to know anything more than that to go out and buy it, then you can cut this review off right now. But I guess I should give a little disclaimer. Recently, in the last couple of months, since Anders' return from his sojourn in the land most foul, I've become pretty good acquaintances with him, becoming friends, and we have had a blast playing Within the Ring of Fire, hosted on my YouTube channel here. And if you're subscribed to me, you probably know that. I think it's been like the last 4 videos I've made were us playing the game. And so, I mean, I guess I do have a close association with the creator of this game now, so I guess take everything I'm saying with a grain of salt, but I do believe that... Sorry, my cat is trying to, sabotage my video. I do believe that I am remaining objective with my assessment of this. My thoughts on the Saga book remain unchanged. You can see it, that review. Very, very positive, but I think I did give a fair assessment of some of the weaknesses of that book. 77 Thrones, though, is what I would consider a masterpiece in world building, and a masterpiece of a book for storytellers and players alike. I've tried coming up with a comparison to different source books that I've used in different games to find something like, hey, like this book really reminds me of this other source book from this other game line, and I can't come up with anything. This is, I think, a truly unique product. And basically, I guess I'll tell you what it is. That is El Sam, one of my favorite deities, and also Ahriman behind her. This is the pantheon of gods and divinities that I guess you could say rule over Kvegathale, rule over the world of Within the Ring of Fire, and it's much more than that. The first 25 pages or so give you most of the rules for divine rituals and powers for characters who are clergy of the different divinities, and it really, it's inspiring for antagonists, it's inspiring for different players, and the powers that are available are fucking rad. They are super cool, super interesting, and they go all the way up into the highest level characters you can have. A status 10 character. There's not anything, he's not pulling any punches and waiting and saying, oh, well, the really powerful stuff, you're going to have to wait and buy this book to access that. It's really... status 1 through 10 is laid open for clergy, and it is absolutely awesome. So it has those mechanics, and they feel. It's the same mechanic. It's the same dice mechanic as used in the Saga book, but they feel really, really solid and really fleshed out. And I would be confident using them. Right off the bat for a game, and I have. I've had to use this. I reference this book before every single session that I play in Within the Ring of Fire. I reference it more than the Saga book, and part of that is because it helps me to form ideas for the plot of my game, for the general direction of the story that I want to go in. But it's also incredibly inspiring for the kinds of characters that you're going to encounter. The meat of this book, like I said, the first 25 or so pages is the most of the kind of divine magic, divine power that your characters will wield. It is invoking the power of their god, of their deity, whether that is a dragon, a troll, or a god. Beyond that, the meat of this book is basically splats devoted to each divinity, all 77 divinities that rule over Kvegathale. And they are enormously detailed. The very first one, El Sam, is huge. It's bigger than most of the other entries, and you can tell that she's one of one of Anders' favorite deities. And it is awesome. It adds a depth to the material in the saga book that wasn't there before. And what I find interesting about each one of these divinities, you get information on basically their personality. What is it that they embody as a divinity? How do their clergy dress? What is their dogma that their clergy must follow? What are specific advantages that their followers will get? Advantages in, more divine rituals that are specific to that deity. What are how do they contact people through omens? And what are their relationships? This is the most important for me. What are their relationships to the other divinities? Who are they jealous of? Spoiler warning, everybody. Who are they in love with? Who do they have, basically blood feuds with? And it is absolutely amazing how much information is contained in the 170 or 180 pages that comprise this book. There is so much inspiration here, and like I've said, it's difficult to try and make a comparison because I've looked at this as this is my Dungeon Master's Guide, basically. This lays out so much inspiration for running a saga within the Ring of Fire that it's this is essential to have. Obviously, no, you can run any number of sagas. There's a ton of inspiration in the saga book to run a game, but it's if you want to take your game, for lack of a better term, to the next level, this is the book to get. It is so useful, and it's a blast to read. And basically, I treated this as kind of looking at a Wikipedia article, in that I would look at a divinity that I was oh yeah, I remember this being mentioned in Saga Book. I want to go look at that one. So I'd read the entry on that one, and of course that leads me to the divine relationships with the other gods, and I go, oh, that sounds interesting. Who's this? And I didn't sit down and read that section. I've read every entry at this point, but I didn't read the entries, from 1 to 77. I started at 35 and jumped to 70, and then and I bounced back and forth. It was a lot of fun doing that, and it's given me a lot of longevity out of reading this book. This is a book I think I'm going to be using for a long time, and it's the kind of book that I think that as a source book, this is the kind of thing, if you're into game design, this is the model to follow. It's incredible. It gives so much inspiration. And what's even better is that it's not just you get some general inspiration as to the church of these divinities and how they act and how you can use the church in the game. These divinities are not aloof. They are active in the world, and each one of them is a fully fleshed out NPC, or Ember as they're known within the Ring of Fire. You have 77, well, less than that, probably 70, because some of these deities are dead. But you have about 70 fully fleshed out NPCs that you can use in your game, that are incredibly powerful and incredibly important, and will give your characters more motivation, and you the ability to tell bigger and better tales. I'm not exaggerating when I say that this is the single best RPG source book I have ever come across. Now, I can't recommend it highly enough. I would say, go out and buy it, and it's completely worth it. Hey, you know what? Knock that off. Cat is trying to ruin my video again. If you have had any hesitation about buying this book, if you thought, that might be useful for this game, just put that to the back of your mind and go and buy it. This is an incredible deal. And I know you can get it cheap from Main Man directly as well if you message him. But as always, like I said in my Saga book review, don't make the mistake that I made and buy the PDF on DriveThruRPG and then buy a physical copy. Buy the bundle of the physical copy and the PDF, because the physical copy, I think is like $35 for this one, which I think is totally accurately priced. This is another high production value book. Most of the art in it is really, really very good, and in my opinion, all of it actually. And this is something I've noticed with all DriveThruRPG books. All of the art looks better on the printed page to me for some reason than it does on my computer screen. It's like I guess maybe like the colors are popping too much on the computer screen. And I remember when I got it, I was really disappointed when I saw the PDF because I thought a lot of the symbols for the gods looked, I don't know, a little off. Like the very, I don't know what it is. Something struck me almost as amateurish about it, and I am loath to say that. I'm absolutely loath to say that, because I know that a lot of people, a lot of awesome artists and YouTube RPG people have been involved in this project, and I don't want to, put down someone's work, but I really didn't like it. But once I got the physical copy, I'm looking at it and I go, oh no, this is great. And maybe it's just that they were too big on my computer screen, which is entirely possible because they were much, much larger on my computer screen than they appear on the printed page. But I really like the style of this book now, and it really does feel better. This is a very high quality paper stock. The binding for me has been great. I mean, I haven't had it detached from the binding at all. Although I have heard other people in the Raw Immersive Games group make that claim, which is unfortunate for them. That sucks. But it's a fairly priced book, and if you buy a physical copy, getting it with the PDF, it's only like $4 or $5 more. But the PDF on its own is like $20. So I made the mistake of buying this book twice for full price, basically. I don't regret it, but I wish I had been less skeptical of this game at first. And really just kind of taking the plunge. I would have saved myself some money and gotten a great product. So yeah, that's basically it. This is the single best RPG source book I've ever come across. The single most useful RPG source book I've ever come across. There really aren't any negatives that I have to say about this one. It's a much tighter book, I think, than the Saga book was. And I still think that Saga book was a great product, but this really is incredible. It is, and I wrote this on my 100-word review on DriveThruRPG. This book has 0% body fat. It is all it's just 100% fuel for your games. There is so much cool stuff in this book. I can't stress that enough. And what's really kind of cool is a lot of what you would consider the bad guys, the evil deities within this game. Their motivations are presented in a way that are more nuanced. They're not, they're not twirling their mustaches, and they're not Sauron, just trying to plunge the world into fire. Although Morgul does want to plunge the world into fire, now that I think about it. But the evil deities, like He Who Has Many Names, who is the principal antagonist at this point in the game that I'm currently running. If you wanna watch that on this channel, I highly encourage you to do so. He is, he's awful. He's terrifying and awful, and he's doing terrible things. He created hell and is trapping people's souls down there. But once you read about it and find out his reasoning for trapping the souls in hell, you're kind of like, oh, well, that's still messed up. But, I mean, your intention is not just evil and blackness. It's way... It's more nuanced than that. It's a very, very interesting book. I really have almost nothing but positive things to say about it. It's incredible. One of my favorite books I've ever come across, and so glad that I finally have a physical copy of it to hold in my hands. So basically what's coming up on my channel, we're going to continue to play Within the Ring of Fire, hopefully every other week. Sometimes things get in the way, but we're going to continue playing that, so you will see more episodes of that game. But in addition to that, I'm going to take a break from talking about Within the Ring of Fire products. Fey Wine is out right now. That's the novel for Within the Ring of Fire. My overall feelings about that book are very positive. It's very entertaining. That's another, you're not going to be bored reading that book. It's full of sex and violence, and it's great. But I'm not going to do a full review on that for quite a while. And the next book for Within the Ring of Fire is due out basically any minute. I know people already have PDF copies of it from Main Man, and this book is Monsters and Men. This is the book that has, like, you know, every species mentioned in these other two source books are covered in depth. And apparently it's something like 29 playable races or even more. I don't know. I'm going to wait to get that book until it's out on Drive-Thru-RPG and I can get the bundle of a physical copy and a PDF together so I don't make the same mistake for a third time in a row. But the reviews are already starting to come out of that, and people are saying it's just as good as 77 Thrones. Some people think it's better than 77 Thrones. But I'm going to wait to do that because I have a couple of other games that I really, really want to review first. And first up that's coming is going to be a review of Stalker, the sci-fi RPG, which is one of my favorite games that I've ever come across. And after that, I finally got a physical copy of Vampire the Requiem 2nd Edition, Blood and Smoke, the Strix Chronicle. And Vampire the Requiem is one of my favorite games of all time. I started off with Masquerade, moved on, transitioned to Requiem when the old World of Darkness imploded, had its apocalypse scenarios, and that is a game that I went back and forth. I liked Masquerade and I liked Requiem for different reasons, but what they have done with this 2nd edition of Requiem is something truly amazing, truly incredible. And I've sat with the PDF for almost a year now, but I'm going through my physical copy, and I am super excited to do an in-depth review of that book. And yeah, that's where I'm going next. I'm doing Stalker, then Vampire. Maybe I'll come back to Within the Ring of Fire after that, but I'm not sure. Until then, goodbye.